Yeah. Hard. Yeah. Militant-minded general, nine-grip, the grip with blades and a pen that can sharpen your spine's tip. Level-headed, though my mind flips from side to side with an acrobat's experience. After I stick it, I'm living down a demon-possessed Dahiye. Seems Jay's the best for the job with no code.
What's the word, y'all? It's KTR_podcast, hashtag KTR. We are KTR. We are in the building, and we are back for episode 49 of Know the Ropes podcast. Yes, this is KTR. Episode 49, one more step away from episode 50. But before that, we're going to do this episode real quick. And my brother, J-Bo, how are you feeling today?
I am feeling wonderful. I'm almost done and graduated from college, so I'm good. I'm in good spirits. How about you?
I am blessed and highly favored. Thank you for asking. And people out there in the wrestling community, I know y'all have been seeing and noticing my face a lot because my co-hosts, I'm tripping. My co-hosts have been in the background working and grinding with their lives. Like I said, like J-Bo just said, he is getting ready to graduate from college. He about to get this dual degrees. He about to be outside making his money, supporting the family, and living lavish. Like I said, congratulations for KTR from me, Cinko. Like, it's a blessing. I'm happy for you, my brother. But before all that good stuff, before we dive into this episode and everything, all the congratulations going out, all the hoopla is happening, got the soapbox out the way, y'all got to do this one simple favor for us. And y'all did real well about this on this last episode. I need y'all to do it again. And that is too. Also, all social media platforms, KTR_podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Know the Ropes Podcast, Facebook, YouTube, Know the Ropes Podcast, all podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, we're on everything. And don't forget to get your merch at ProWrestlingTees.com/KTR podcast.
All day.
Now, let's get into this episode real quick. First off, we'll talk about look at NXT because that is we were supposed to talk about that a little while ago, but like I said, life has been the way it happened because y'all have been working. And with that, NXT has a little bit of change of scenery right now.
Mm-hmm.
Some stuff has happened not in the background shoot, in the main scenery too as well. It's like got some changes here, got some changes there, and then also people have been released. And like those people that have been released, a noticeable big five of those people that have been released were Dakota Kai, Big Draco, Malcolm Bivens, Harlan, and Dexter Loomis.
Super dang.
And it's weird because they all five of these were literally in some type of storyline and they were featured on TV. Like they had great TV time. They were featured heavily every Tuesday night on NXT. Yep. And next thing you know, it's like boop, gone. So NXT is really following up on what they said in their policy, saying, no, either if it regards to age, if they don't see improvement within like a certain amount of period of time in their eyes, or basically in some other people's circumstances, they just don't want to resign, they want to leave. And it's different. It caught me off guard, surprising, but like, man, especially seeing people that were literally like on TV doing storylines and getting dropped off really like the next week, it's pretty weird. How you feel about the releases in the new landscape of NXT right now, J-Bo?
All right. The releases, they were very shocking, especially with NXT, even with their direction with NXT 2.0. Cinko, let's dive into the five. We're not going to mention every last one of them, but just the five. And we can start off with Draco Anthony, Big Draco. He was green. He was. He had a lot of improvements. Of course, I would like to have seen more from given more time, but he was green. I get it. And Cinko, as you mentioned, they do have this very strict time frame that you need to get better by a certain time, or else that's it. But the next one was Dakota Kai. That one, it did shock me because I feel Dakota Kai just never reached her peak. I just don't. I am actually a fan of Dakota Kai, and I believe she can put on great matches. She did so for NXT UK. She did so for NXT, especially with the work she did with Gonzalez. So it's very shocking that she left, but I think she'll be well wherever she goes. Okay, but I want you to talk about Malcolm Bivens because you sent an interesting text. Go ahead, tell the people what your interesting text.
See, now about Malcolm Bivens, I was always interested in his work and everything. Then I started becoming real invested into his craft for other reasons. We'll get into that sooner or later down the line with the podcast. But I literally asked you, the same week he got released, saying, like, what do you think about his work and how do you feel about him? Then you told me your opinion about him working with the Diamond, like he is. No, great manager, great, outstanding mic skills to the T, like top tier of all time. But at the same time, you say, do you think the way that the direction Dynamite was going, seemed like it was starting to falter a little bit. Then literally days later, he gets released. Now, granted, with Malcolm Bivens, he did not want to resign his contract. He was offered a new contract, but he did not want to resign, which kind of perplexed a lot of people because of the fact that he does want to resign you, which means, okay, new contract, more money, and possibly he might have went to the main roster. And no, there was no rumors going around the people he could have worked with, but he addressed all those rumors with his little stand-up that he did and he posted on Twitter. But with that, him being released is a real drop of the ball. Yeah. I really feel like he is main event status. Like he is main roster status with his work and how he works the crowd, works the mic. He would have been perfect on that entertainment stage because the whole thing with WWE, with that main roster is sports entertainment. He would have flourished on that main stage, no matter who he was paired with. If they had him as like a GM, he would have worked wonders for every show he was on Raw or SmackDown. And just real unfortunate that it didn't work out. Granted, wish him the best on his future endeavors. There's rumors about him possibly going to AEW. Maybe that fits more in the lane that he wants to go in his budget, or maybe he just doesn't want to be involved with wrestling at all because he did kind of hint that on his stand-up too. So it really hurt seeing him not continue his WWE career, but if that's what he wants, then I'm all for it. I'm fine with it.
Malcolm Bivens is, if you give him proper mic TV time, he's going to be successful. He would have been good in Triple H's version of NXT. He was good in the current NXT 2.0 version. He would have been great on the main roster. But I think with him, he saw the writing on the wall. We'll talk about Athena, also known as Ember Moon, her interview shortly. But I think what she spoke about in her interview is what Malcolm Bivens saw. And he wanted to get out while the getting was getting bad.
Right. Because think about that whole the transition from NXT to the main roster is honestly is real questionable. I don't know where the barrier that's in between the two entities of the business go from one side to the other. It probably is just like a whole different ballpark and ballgame. People that's working this show and working this, you would think they are all in the same corporation, but when they move up people and make that transition from NXT to the main roster, it's just like, what is this? What happened? They just throw everything away that you did in NXT. They want you literally start from scratch.
Yes.
Throw away all the work that you put in, throw away your name, your music, your likeliness, like anything that resembles of what you were on that grand stage up in NXT just gets diminished on the main roster.
It's true.
Yeah. Another release that caused off guard was Dexter Loomis.
Oh, man. Okay, Dexter Loomis. Look, we need to realize Dexter Loomis probably had one of the best, not only one of the best storylines in kind of NXT history, he had one of the best storylines with Indy Hartwell and the rest of the way, Johnny Gargano, Austin Theory, Candice LeRae. He had one of the best storylines that honestly did not need wrestling. It didn't need wrestling. It just was strict storyline, and it was entertaining. It was captivating. It kept you watching. On top of the fact of he was good in the ring. He had a great character. It was different. It was unique. But just ranked, and he was still in a storyline with Indy Hartwell, and in a mixed tag storyline, and all of a sudden it just ended. And they alluded a little bit to it with Indy Hartwell still looking at her ring, that obviously, he isn't there anymore. But then that was it. And we barely see that much with Indy Hartwell anymore. So it's very upsetting where they took something that was already good. You didn't have to make no changes to it. It was great. Right. And then just ended.
Yeah, so that's just it was just like that sort of stuff like that kind of baffles me, because my thing is something isn't broke, don't fix it, and just like something with that, as we see how green NXT is with all their new hire, their new roster, try and put fresh faces with limited wrestling experience on cable television.
Not a good
now you're pushing more of that up, and it's gonna look weird, because now it feels like it's gonna be like, a little, I forgot the word, like some type of effect is gonna keep going on, like a cycle. You put somebody green on TV, they're not ready, and you see they're not ready, then you release them.
Mm-hmm.
And like Dexter Loomis, he could still just fill those voids on TV. That keeps it more entertaining, until you actually find somebody that can be on cable television to actually produce numbers for your product and your network, and everything will be good. But now it's just like, okay, now you just keep removing people. Now you're bringing over talent from the main roster to NXT to help out with stuff. Like now we really pushing it, because now you know how limited everything is, and like how many people could actually hold their own currently with NXT. Not saying they're not going to get better, but they know they have a limited time frame to get better. So it's a lot of pressure on them. So that kind of affects their psyche. It throws a lot of their game off.
You said something very profound. You said, they want somebody green, and then you have a certain timeline to get ready. And then if you're still green by the time frame, you should let them go. It's sort of like they're looking for instant talent, which is what Triple H was bringing in, which was
right. With the bringing in people that have wrestling backgrounds that are well known around the world, and just putting them on TV, let them develop, let them learn the wrestling background of WWE style wrestling until they get that together. Put them in the main roster.
Yeah,
that's where the whole breakdown. We just need to have a whole episode of NXT, because Triple H's NXT just, like I say this game, it really spoiled us, because I'm not sure if we ever going to get the type of like produced wrestlers like in this day and age. Granted, I understand that everybody didn't have like a professional wrestling background. I also remember back in like the early 2002 era, when you brought in like wrestlers like John Cena, Randy Orton, Batista, people that weren't had much of a wrestling background, but they produced something great. I don't know if we're gonna have like that type of class again. That's like the class of the NBA 2002 class with like LeBron, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade. That's what that is. It was around the same time. I don't know if we're gonna get that again.
That was. That's a great point, because you're right. John Cena, even Randy Orton didn't have that much of a wrestling background behind him. Batista. The difference, however, between then and now is that during that point, the wrestling community was just that. They would watch whatever they'll see on TV and accept it as is. And that's how people like Randy Orton, John Cena, Batista got over. Jump forward 20 years, now we're in 2022. You got wrestling fans who not only watch what's on TV, they also see what's on the indie scene. They also watch what's on the internet. They see what's on Instagram. They read the interviews. We are so more diverse in wrestling now, where we're not just going to accept what you throw at us, because we know there's something better that's already there.
Exactly.
So it's hard. You're right. We don't know if we'll ever get that type of production again. We could only hope, as wrestling fans, we would hope to get something that diverse, but at this rate, it doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon.
Exactly. That's real unfortunate. But like I said, we do hope that all the new recruits and new wrestlers that does come through NXT, like, we do wish them the best. It's just they're just in a real unfortunate like situation, circumstance of how they have to get ready so fast and be prepared to be thrown out into the public instantly with just a very limited background. And speaking of ring wrestlers, another wrestler that got released was Harlan. Harlan, he was working heavily on TV too with Gacy and those storylines as well against Brian Breaker. Actually met Harlan. He's a very cool guy. Like I said, he's like cool, generous, and all that. Like he's a real cool dude. I just really hate the fact that I shaved my head. then y'all release me. I'm just saying, I'm sorry. Like I get everything. Like I get like they have him in like a good situation. He's been with the WWE for like over a year and some change. When he first got signed, he was a real hot commodity on social media. He had a big following. A lot of people were following this. He had a big influence, like with the culture and the popularity with people like Rick Ross co-signing him, people like Kevin Durant co-signing him, people like Wale co-signing like that. That was a good look. That was something that was well needed, especially with how they trying to do NXT with the whole 2.0 thing. It was working. He had that buzz and that following. But then they just put him in front of TV and actually wrestled some matches. Then I have no idea what happened after that,
So my thing with Harlan is
I'm still pissed that he had to shave his head. And you get not like that. Y'all gonna have to cut me a check or something. Like if I shave my head for y'all, then y'all cut me a couple months later, I would be pissed, especially at a young age, like 22, 23 years. Nah.
Yeah, you're gonna have to run me that paper.
Right.
I mean, okay, so my thing with Harlan was he green? Yes, but if you looked at his character, how he was built, what he did in the ring actually conveyed his character. How he wrestled, how he was just straightforward, but then, he just come at you aggressively, do a few moves and end the match. Like, that's how they built him. It's different from somebody like Draco Anthony where, okay, view him as a regular wrestler. Okay, I expected more. But Harlan, you're building him as a guy with a few moves who dominates. So I don't see what he didn't do where if you give him some more time, he would give you exactly what you wanted. So I think, and then plus, the internet community, it could be them or it could just be, the wrestling world in general. They hyped him up as being like the Brock Lesnar or whatever. Yeah. So there's that shock factor as well. Like you was building him up to be somebody, and now it just you have him shave his head and now he's gone. Like that's a problem, and I don't see why. That's the one where I'm really him and Loomis. Those are the two I really have a question mark on. Like,
and that's a great thing too that you said. Like they built him as like just a dominant factor, just somebody just supposed to beat you up in just like a raw fashion. That's it. Like you didn't really need to necessarily see like technical wrestling from him, any like special holds. It's like he just grab, dominate, throw you down, stuff like that. He could have carried that type of wrestling for a good 3 or 6 months until you actually want to put him in the match. Like he just could have just been Gacy's like no muscle backup for like a good amount of time. Put a couple tag teams with Gacy. Let him work the ring like that. Put him in like a handicap match with Gacy and him versus somebody else, and just be destroyed. Have him interfere in matches. That's all you had to do. Just give him time. Because apparently you ain't got nobody else you're gonna throw in front of TV. Right. And so it's like it works out that way. Now you just gave Gacy like 2 more new people.
And plus he didn't need to do mic work because Joe Gacy did all that for him.
Exactly.
So what was you looking for?
Right. So who knows? Yeah, but moving on, we're still gonna talk. We're gonna talk about the NXT scene a little bit more, but J-Bo, yes. You did share this information with me, and I did actually watch the interview. But give a little insight about the whole situation with formerly known as Ember Moon, Athena, about everything she spoke about with her departure and the changes and things that are happening backstage.
I would love to. So Athena, as he mentioned, formerly known as Ember Moon, she had an interview that pretty much discussed, what led to her departure. And I won't go through the entire interview, but I will point out some key points that came up. Obviously, Ember Moon, she unhappy with how things were going. But she said one of the first things that happened that kind of gave her a red flag was that Raw and SmackDown writers was coming down to NXT to start writing for the show. These writers not only didn't really know what was going on in NXT, Ember Moon, she even specifically stated that one writer said, I didn't even know you and Shotzi were a tag team. Like that's a big red flag right off. Then it got to the point where suddenly Triple H left and no one knew what happened, no one knew why, and no one knew what was going to happen. But she was told that there are going to be some changes. Don't worry, everything's going to be fine. We're going to go about business as usual. You will still have TV time, stuff like that. Then suddenly, it was reported that Vince McMahon pulled Athena off of TV. Just without warning, just suddenly, to the point where she was promised that everything was going to be fine, it was going to be okay, but it just suddenly happened. Then she started getting some feedback saying, well, we want you to be a coach, okay? We want you to dress more sexy if you can. And she was like, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I was told. Like, everything is changing and no one is telling me why. And then obviously it led to her eventual departure from NXT. But overall, like that, we can see that on the surface level from how NXT is, how they pretty much just dismantled everything that Triple H built. But now we have one of, a cornerstone wrestler who was a former NXT Women's Champion, went to the main roster, and came back to NXT when Triple H was still down there. And so she saw from multiple angles how those changes really took place. So if these are her experiences, we can just imagine anyone else who was in the original NXT and what they went through as well.
Understood. And like with that, it's messed up. I'm just gonna say that. I was gonna say a little messed up, but it is messed up because now you can really sort of picture and see the direction that the WB is slowly trying to go to with their women's roster now. They're slowly trying to build another quote unquote divas division again.
Yeah.
And trying to kind of fade away from actual women that could, not mean actual women, but actual women wrestlers that can actually wrestle. They're looking more for your look now than for your wrestling skill. Like I said, not to knock anybody down. Like, Mandy Rose, she's doing what she's doing. She's earned it. But at the same time, like I said, everybody can't be a Mandy Rose, pretty much.
Yep.
Some people, there's some women that are great at wrestling, and they don't have to flaunt and show off like, their assets of like what's their physical assets or anything like that. Like just let them showcase their talent on TV, give them actual TV time, let them display and showcase actual matches, like give the fans like what they want to see. Just because you think, maybe views are currently being hurt in the situation during these matches, like no, like sometimes you give these women matches probably like 3 to 5 minutes. That's why it may not be a lot of views during that match. Like let them wrestle an actual match. Don't give them any squash matches. Give them the 15-20 minute opening match that you do with majority of these male matches that you do on your main roster. Like just give them their respect and give them time so they can actually display their work and their character. Because Ember Moon can wrestle.
She can.
There's no dodging around that. Like she can wrestle. And like she's a better wrestler than Mandy Rose.
Put it out there. Put it out there.
Yes, exactly.
And not to take anything out from Mandy Rose, because from her character on the main roster to her character now in NXT, she is a better wrestler. It's not a knock on Mandy Rose. She has greatly improved from the main roster NXT. So no knock to her. But the point is, you have wrestlers like Athena. You have wrestlers like Johnny Gargano. You have wrestlers like Loomis. You have wrestlers like Ciampa. All these wrestlers who was on NXT who was tearing. You have wrestlers like Asuka. You have wrestlers like Shayna Baszler. You have these wrestlers on NXT who's tearing the house down, and then they're either chasing after the 24/7 championship on the main roster, or they're released. And that's not a good direction either way you take it.
Yeah, so like with that, I mean, I guess WWE's really following with their case of being more so of entertainment than the wrestling aspect. I guess you gotta look the part to be the part, And like I'm on somewhat of a like small surface. I understand, because entertainment is my thing, so I get it. But there is a way around stuff, If somebody doesn't quote unquote look the best, I'm pretty sure they can wrestle. You didn't sign them for no reason. They can wrestle, they got a great following, and people appreciate that following. Or somebody just doesn't look the part, but they're just great on the mic. Like, like Kevin Owens, for instance, like he just like a regular person. Mm-hmm. like he like a regular dad, pretty much, just a basic 6 feet tall and like 250, 260. Like he's literally like built like my actual father. Like I look at him like this, like I'm like, Dad, if this what you would look like if he was wrestling, but he's just immaculate on the microphone, and he's fluent with his moves. So it's like, give a chance. Yeah, but like I said, it is what it is. Like maybe they get some type of new management, new rise, or some work, or just have a little powwow or meeting so they can discuss like a better way to go about with the business in the future, because being eye candy can only last for so long, because ain't no way y'all having a bra and panties match in the PG era anymore. That's not gonna happen. Ain't no mud bath matches happening. Like y'all gotta figure something out, Ain't no live sex shows. So like it's y'all gonna have to put these people in actual matches and let them fight.
Out, bro. I be forgetting they have matches like this.
Exactly. That's what was carrying the division back in the day, which is wild. Like it was really a perverted time back in the day. Like every time Trish Stratus came out, the King like puppies. I'm like, you just really think about that now. This man was screaming puppies every time she came out to the ring. Like, and it's all about her titties. That's what all he was doing.
And then they would have bikini shows on bikini contests,
Playboy sponsorships.
Oh my God, it was wild, man.
Exactly.
Don't forget, that issue that they had out, and just never mind, dude. I digress.
Right, exactly. We can't go back to that no more. It's a new era, it's new time in life. It'll be so many lawsuits that happen. Anyway, speaking about the WWE still, we're gonna talk about the main event, the head of the table, the tribal chief, the needle mover, Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is slowly transitioning to Brock Lesnar status.
Part time. Okay,
yeah, he's word on the street is that he signed a new contract, and with this new contract, apparently he's not going to be on every show, especially when it comes like the house shows and even some pay-per-views and live TV. Now, with this limited appearance with both world title belts from both shows, how do you feel about this, J-Bo?
Okay, this first off, WWE, they're going to have a fan base. They're going to have people to watch no matter what. However, the wrestling that we know and love is already changing dramatically. But with your honestly only heavy hitter that you have right now, that being Roman Reigns, and if it's true that he is going to a Brock Lesnar base contract where he only shows up a few times, you're going to be hurt because you have nobody else. You have no other main eventers. You have no other potentials. You got Austin Theory. I'm sorry, Theory they're trying to bring up, but you're not going to get at that level. You have Cody, but I'm going to say this. I think Cody's only going to be there till he eventually wins the WWE title, then he's going to be gone too. So it's your only bet is Roman Reigns right now, and he's going to be part-time. It's it's going to be hard to watch shows where there's no champion. Do you remember back when Brock Lesnar, he was Universal Champion, and Raw didn't have a champion for a while, but SmackDown had the WWE title, so they had that. So Raw, like their main belt was United States title, and they barely used it as the main event. Now you tell me that both the Universal and the WWE title is not going to be on either show regularly. It's just going to be the category of wrestlers that you're barely properly using. It is going to be painful to watch.
Yeah, especially now that they're basically having the tag teams being the main eventers and leaders of these main shows with the Usos and RK Bro, which is kind of wild because it's like, I mean, granted, I'll say this about because when this stuff happens, it provides opportunity to other wrestlers, in a sense, but at the same time, it's not the same type of opportunities no more because the roster is limited now. We don't have enough people. We're getting people on both shows now at the same time. It's just everything's recycled. Granted, they had a decent pay-per-view with WrestleMania Backlash. I'm not gonna lie. That was a good show with wrestling per se. I'll say that. But the fact that that you have to put a show on week in, week out, every week on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Without your main eventer and without the two main titles, it's hard. Like now you're really just gonna be creating storylines off the fly because those two titles, those are automatic storylines right there on itself. And now you take that away, you take away two storylines, especially when you put two belts on one person. You take away the main event, that's the third storyline. That's just like,
man,
what do you do?
I tell you, for SmackDown, I heavily looked forward to any segment that the Bloodline and Paul Heyman does. So now, I mean, we'll still get the Usos regularly, so that's a good thing. We'll have that. But if the rumor is true with Roman Reigns, he'll barely be there. Paul will probably be there for the Usos a little bit, but not as much as he does with Roman. It just like what is there to truly look forward to? In fact, if you look at it, they're building Cody up so daggone hard. He hasn't lost just yet, and his entrance has about 101 different pyrotechnics going off. So they're really trying to build him up because Roman is eventually going out the door. They're not doing Drew McIntyre the same way, which is another guy they really could use. I mean, I can go on and on about all the potential because you mentioned the potential, but if Roman goes to the part-time, they better act fast and effectively, or else each show going to be very boring. Very boring.
That is true, and I agree. Like I said, whatever they got planned, I hope it works in their favor and all goes well. But like when you take away the two top titles and the main eventer, it's gonna be a little difficult. It wasn't necessarily that bad and hard with Brock Lesnar. You took away Roman Reigns, it's like,
come on, man.
You took away Roman Reigns with this limited roster. That's the problem. That's the main thing. That's the problem because if it was the roster back then, they did okay, it could work.
It could work if they had proper guys, like they had the Seth Rollins they used to have, and they had the Drew McIntyre that they used to have, like they had the Kevin Owens they used to have. Yes, that's fine if Roman wants to go to a part-time, but no one else except maybe Cody is on that level with Roman right now. It's
right. Yeah, well, we're gonna see what happens in upcoming shows. But with that, talking about WWE, there is a small little rumor going around that a certain AEW superstar is leaning towards signing to the WWE in the future. MJF. Rumor has it that there's a little animosity, a little dispute between him and the chair over there with Tony Khan, a little disagreement, a little back and forth, a little negativity. And also the fact that MJF has, mentioned WWE a couple times in his past about signing with them as soon as his contract is over in 2024, that he will lean towards going to WWE. And I'll say this about that. MJF is WWE material.
There you go. You better say
he needs to be on WWE. He is. I get for like the what's the word I'm looking for when it comes to Okay. When it comes to like the profanity and stuff like that, you know, the explicitness, that's the only part that fits with AEW. But I'm pretty sure he can, you know, tone it down with the cuss and stuff like that. He would be great if he was on WWE because he is entertainment. He is entertainment. You need another person like him on that main roster. This the baby Miz, pretty much, you know. That's really what it is. Like, you need another one of those type of wrestlers. You just need somebody that's just great on the mic. He'll be, I mean, I'm pretty sure he could be like a great main eventer, but he'll be that solid mid-carder, you know, that'll win like multiple Intercontinental and United States championships, you know, just to hold it down on that, you know, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock hour time frame with Raw, you know, pretty much. Like, that's who y'all need. He is gold. Like, he can carry promos like it's nothing. He'll make any feud entertaining like that. I hope he signs to WWE and gets the money that he well deserves. Man, go ahead.
Out of all the things that we've been saying about the current state with the WWE, if MJF's contract does expire, if WWE offers him a contract, and if MJF takes that contract, now you got something interesting. MJF is a once-in-a-lifetime heat generator, okay, lack for better terms, okay? He knows how to piss off people, but keep them interested long enough to see you get punched in the mouth. That's who you need. That's who The Miz was back when he won the WWE Championship. The Miz, he was what? He was just was the SmackDown host for a little bit. Like, no one took him seriously. Even when he had the tag team with John Morrison, that was interesting, but he was no standalone. But when you gave him that mic and let him just go, he was an instant main eventer. He was an instant star. He was an instant heel. Everything that you could be as far as top level, that's who he is. MJF, the writing is on the wall. You can see it. You can read it. Just give him the mic. And Cinko, you're right. Yes, he probably had to calm down a little bit on the profanity, but who cares? Like, just let him go. Let him have fun with it. Like you said, no matter what storyline he's in, no matter what match he's in, no matter who he's in with, he could be in there with a veteran. He could be in there with a rookie. He will carry that storyline. That's who you need looking 5, 6, 7 years down the line while you're building other guys and girls. So yeah, that's going to be so beneficial to the WWE if they go down that route with him.
And I hope one day, if that does happen, we get a Miz versus MJF feud.
It's gonna happen.
It has to happen. That would be so gold. Like, the promos between them is just gonna be I don't know who's gonna be the face. They ain't gotta be. They could be both. It's gonna be perfect. Just the shit talking between them is gonna be incredible. Man, please, MJ, leave AEW, just sign with them. That is your future. You will have so much going on over there. I promise you. And please, if he does sign over there, don't write his scripts. Let him have control of what he says. Just tell him, don't cuss too hard. That's all. Just do that, and everything is good to go.
Just mention the pay-per-view.
Yes.
Championship.
The stadium city that you're in. Then talk about his mouth. You know?
Oh man, yeah.
With that being said, that is all we have for episode 49. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for listening. And also, be sure to do one simple favor for us, for y'all sign off, and that is to also all social media platforms, KTR_podcast, Twitter, Instagram, No Rose Podcast, Facebook, YouTube, No Rose Podcast, all podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, we're on everything. And don't forget to get your merch at ProWrestlingTees.com/KTR Podcast. This is episode 49, KTR, Know the Ropes Podcast, and we are out.
I'm going to do it this time.
Oh, shoot. Dang. Shout out to Big Harv. He a little busy right now. That's why he couldn't join us. But, J-Bo, what should they do?
You guys already did it. Last episode, thousands of views. multiple listeners. Really enjoyed the episode. We want y'all to enjoy this one as well. And the only way for y'all to truly enjoy this episode 49 of KTR is if you pump those numbers.
There you go. I love it.
Yeah, numbers, letters, all symbols of man-made devices that could cripple us all. Improve we can panicking when storm hits and knocks out the power grid. Are you fully prepared to live off the grid? How you think?